And you know what? Trump is going to serve them because Trump wants corrupt Democratic New York City prosecutors. And Mike McMahon is on the top of the list, and he's got no protection because he's not with the Mamdani wing of the Democratic Party. He's with the Cuomo wing, which is dying. And I wouldn't be surprised if a color of law and a RICO case gets brought against these people. I would not be surprised.
We'll see. I wish Trump cared as much when Republicans committed crimes as he does with Democrats, but be that as it may. Go. All right, and now we are joined by Jake Lang. Jake, you've spent a little time in prison. You were in D.C., maybe near or at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. We're definitely going to ask you about that. You're running for the U.S. Senate in Florida, and you're suing the mayor-elect Zohran, I think I got his name right, Mamdani. We'll get into all of that. Got to ask you, first of all, I think you can answer this freely and honestly. What do you remember about yourself and what you did on January 6, 2021?
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's a blessing to be home. Thank you, President Trump. God is good. Delivered me from a great evil. And the evil started on January 6th inside the Capitol. They were trying to steal our country from us. They had completely rigged our elections, and 1 million patriots stood up to basically tell the Democrats that stole our election, send the votes back to the states. When they did not listen to our voices, they decided to pummel us down to the ground. They unleashed a barrage. It was a murderous barrage. 4 unarmed Americans lost their life at the Capitol, and I found myself in the middle of this mass police brutality event.
Were you inside the Capitol?
I never technically made it inside the Capitol. Where I was at most of the day was the inaugural tunnel, that tunnel where the president comes outside of on the dais there to accept his candidacy. The president-elect, usually Joe Biden never did that, by the way. They did like a secret ceremony, some type of nonsense that they were up to, nefarious action. But during January 6th, I found myself basically inside this tunnel most of the day, having to fend for my life and the life of all these women around me and elderly people. There were a lot of veterans there that were, past service members that were 60, 70 years old and above. And they were being brutalized and killed by the police, including the woman Rosanne Boylan. Rosanne Boylan was a 38-year-old from Georgia, a beautiful young lady that was trampled to death by the Capitol Police. She was also covered with CS gas and tear gas and pepper spray, and she was beaten while she was on the ground by Officer Lila Morris from the Metropolitan Police Department. So I found myself responding to these cries for help, and I actually, by God's grace alone, I actually ended up dragging a young man out of the crowd, Philip Anderson, a black man. We've become best friends now, and he credits me with saving his life. So everything I did on January 6th was because I love my country, and I hated watching my fellow countrymen being beaten down after they stole our voice.
You say you love your country, but a part of a functioning democracy is the peaceful transition of power. And what the people in January 6th did was stop that from being peaceful. And if you can't peacefully transition power, then you don't have a functioning democracy. So how do you answer that? If you love your country, why didn't you allow for it to be peaceful?
That is an egregious thing to say. Those who did not allow a peaceful transfer of power are those who stole the election on November 5th. And it is our duty as patriots to stand up for our constitutional republic and not let any enemy, foreign or domestic, that is repugnant to. These people disenfranchised and stole the voices of millions of Americans. And we were there to do our constitutionally bound duty to make sure and ensure the legitimate democratic process was actually followed. We were there peacefully. We did not act aggressively first. The Capitol Police fired on us, and our message was a redress of grievance to make sure our elected officials, those who work for us, the American people, would send the votes back to the state legislator. In fact, many of them were poised to do so, but the Fedsurrection, the drummed up narrative by Nancy Pelosi and her ilk, prevented that from happening when they had 274 undercover FBI agents embedded in the crowd, causing all kinds of
And
chaos.
you
And
you
now we're
think
learning even more. Even more. Excuse me, sir. Let me finish. You invited me onto this interview, and you're accusing me of not allowing the democratic process to go through. Give me the dignity to respond. I sacrificed 4 years and 6 days of my life inside the worst human conditions known to man, over 900 days of solitary confinement, not to be lectured by rhinos in Florida. The Republican Party is full of them, and you guys seem like you're towing the line with all the same people. The Democrat line saying, oh, January 6th was worse than 9/11 and all that stuff. I'm sure your publication published things very similar to that. And now,
Jake,
what
we
you guys have to
Jake,
say,
listen,
what do you guys have
I'm
to
more
say
major than you.
about the
I got a good question for
274?
you, Jake.
What do
me
you guys have
finish.
to say about the 274 undercover agents that
I
my
think
life
that
was
if you
taken by?
think that 274 agents caused thousands of people to storm the Capitol, you're a fool. As far as
You don't know
Mike,
about
calm
crowd,
down.
and you don't know about crowd dynamics and herd mentality.
Okay.
You can
Jake,
go
quick
to a
question.
protest, and this
Jake,
is what they do. This is what these insurgents do. They go to a protest, they drop off a pallet of bricks. All it takes is one person, an insurgent, to throw the first brick, and then you have a herd mentality response from people. So yes, I do believe nearly 300 trained professionals could instigate a massive reactionary force in the crowd that day, reacting to the aggressive actions of Nancy Pelosi's stormtroopers. So yes, you're a fool if you think 300 mobilized agents working through a crowd cannot control that crowd. You have no idea about military tactics and what the U.S. does all across the world in order to do coups d'etats and stuff like that. You have no idea. They work with teams in the low half dozen and dozen to control entire crowds. So you have no idea, my good sir.
Jake, we're finally starting to get to the bottom of J6. We're finally starting to get all the facts out there. And a lot of things you're saying, there's a lot of evidence that's going to be gone through. I want to talk a little bit more. You were a J6 defendant. You were in the J6 Gulag, and you were later pardoned by President Trump. Do you see yourself as living proof that the deep state can be beaten?
100%. We fought against the greatest evil ever known to man, the Marxist tyrannical Biden regime, which is a basically downstream of the permanently embedded deep state in America, and we won. They tried to put me and my brothers away for life. They tried to lock up President Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon. They came after all of our great 1776 patriots, and they lost. At the end of the day, America's been restored. Our republic is back on track, and we're seeing leaps and bounds of difference in our culture, in our society, in the influx of these violent illegal migrants. Look at how America has rebounded. And all of that is due to President Trump and the January 6ers standing up against a stolen election in 2020. The American people, they understood that election was stolen, and they mandated President Trump to return to the White House in 2024.
Do you really think that, hold on, let me ask this question. Do you really think that 5 random states could flip 10,000, 15, 20,000 votes illegally?
Did you not see 3,000 mules? Did you not understand this mail-in voting scam that they're running? Do you not understand that Dominion voting is antithetical to the American way of life? President Trump himself, he has the data, he has the knowledge, he has the insight, and he himself is told the American people what their lies are.
What's the evidence that
of course, I believe the election was stolen in 3 egregious ways. First, you had the information warfare that outlets probably like yours, trying to bury the Hunter Biden laptop story and other stories, changing search results on Google and shadow banning and shadow blocking pro-Trump conservatives all over Facebook and Instagram. That was the first way. The second way is through the mail-in voting ballot scam. Everybody knows that. We saw pallets of ballots dropped off what President Trump called explosions of bullshit. He literally called it that on January 6th. In the middle of the night, all of a sudden, the votes flipped, everything went up, and they said, oh, there were a bunch of mail-in voting ballots that were dropped off, literally statistically impossible. And the third way is Dominion voting systems has been compromised. We all know that. They're antithetical to the way of life of Americans. They hate our value system. All of their board of directors and all of their people are rabid leftists. So look at the proof that's in the pudding, and look at this fact. Barack Obama, the most wildly popular Democrat of all time, gets 65 million votes and 68 million votes in his elections. But Joe Biden from the basement, this decrepit old man that has nothing going for him, somehow pushes a statistical anomaly of 82 million votes. Are you kidding me? How could you not see that just in the raw factual data right there? You're telling me that Joe Biden, the brain dead surrogate,
listen,
Beijing Biden is 10, 15 million votes stronger than Barack Obama? You guys, you Republicans in Florida, in the Republican Party, some of you guys are rhinos and you have gotten this brain rot watching too much CNN.
So, yeah, Jake, I want to ask you about that. So you've turned your persecution into purpose. You're running for the United States Senate. Tell us what your mission is for Florida and for the America First movement.
The America First movement is really rooted in integrity, right? We have all of these politicians on Capitol Hill, and this U.S. Senate has been marred by generations now of weak-kneed, feckless, uniparty leadership. Mitch McConnell, even the current Senate leader, John Thune, he bent a knee to Black Lives Matter. He prostrated before them, and George Floyd, and all this woke nonsense. But when it came to January 6th, he feigned all this is the worst day in American history. All of the leaders in Senate, just maybe with a few exceptions in the Republican Party, and of course, the Democrats are evil Marxists. They've gone completely wacko, have showed the American people they don't care about them. They don't care about the same values of make America great again. They don't care about pushing through and ushering through President Trump's agenda. They're allowing the filibuster and all of these political games, reindeer games up in Capitol Hill to not institute and to permanently bring about President Trump's agenda, which was the mandate of the American people. So my candidacy is very simple. I'm going to change the absolute core of the United States Senate and bring the MAGA firebrand, the real patriotic, conservative, grassroots part of this country into the Senate, shake things up, and reform the actual way that the American people are looking at our weak country club, slithering Republicans and Democrats in there. It's this old, flabby type of weak leadership that is they're taking money from AIPAC. They're beholden to foreign governments. I don't like any part of it. It is not the MAGA Trump masculine American dominant American first way of ruling our country. And if the American people want change, they need to start in the United States Senate, because those people are as old as dust and they don't care. They've been long since bought and paid for by every single NGO. Funneling, those same senators were here in 2020 as millions of illegal immigrants and violent extremist Muslims flooded into our country. Those same senators sat back and watched. They lined their pockets with NGO money, and they all discuss me. And we need reformation in the United States Senate. My candidacy is about a actual change in the outlook the American people have on the United States Senate. We need change, and we need dramatic shift towards real patriotic American first values. People with integrity like myself that never folded to the plea deals they offered me. They offered me to go home if I turned on President Trump. I spent years in solitary. I fought for this country, and I will continue to fight rigorously for the American people.
We got it. You mentioned conservative. Did I hear you say conservative?
Yes, I'm a Christian conservative, biblical-based, constitutionally based man.
Does that include fiscally conservative?
Yes, we want to rein
in the
outrageous spending that we're spending. We're sending money to all these countries, and we have homeless veterans.
Do you think that President Trump is fiscally conservative?
President Trump has found inroads to enrich our nation again
Do
through
you
the drill,
think it's
baby drill.
fiscally conservative to run deficits that are nearly $2 trillion? Would you vote for the budgets that have come out of the U.S.
We
Senate?
have, yes, I would. First of
You
all,
would.
a
So
vote for Jake
are you
Lang is a
fiscally
vote for
conservative
President
then?
Trump's agenda. I am a Trump loyalist. That's what the
You're a Trump
American people
loyalist.
want.
So are
They
you
don't
but
want,
are you
they don't
fiscally
want these
conservative?
weak-kneed, feckless leaders. They trust President Trump. They voted for President Trump. When I am in the United States Senate, I will back President Trump's agenda 100% through and through. So
Would
if you're
that
trying to
make you
catch me up
fiscally
and try to get me
conservative?
to take an inroads against President Trump, that's why American people are really disgusted with Congress and Senate, because they don't follow President Trump's agenda, which they voted
But they
for.
were
They have their
elected
own
too.
agenda that they go and they
That's right. They
radically
were
run off with.
elected. They were elected too. But would you be fiscally conservative if you vote
They
for a
elected
budget
under
that's nearly
false
$2 trillion
pretenses,
in
claiming
debt?
to be patriots and Republicans, and go up there and turn into sloths and rhinos?
Right. You think it's rhino to vote against a budget that's $2 trillion deficit?
I think it's rhino to turn against President Trump, who has single-handedly saved this nation from the crash course of running off into Marxist communism. You would rather side with people like Zohran Mamdani and the Democrat Party instead of following the fearless
I
leadership
would
of
rather
President Trump.
side with
People like
Rand
you
Paul,
don't
who
understand.
wants a-
You have to stay MAGA. You have to stay
Good.
loyal. You have to trust in our leadership here, or else we
Speaking
will give
of
and hand our country
socialists,
over to Democrats. I'm really tired of you interrupting me. You're the reporter. I am the person being interviewed, and you're supposed to be allowing me to speak. You're asking me questions and interrupting me at every single juncture. It's ridiculous. Please stop. You're talking over me, and I'm in the middle of making
I
a
know.
point,
When
and
you
you're reporting.
filibuster,
You're
it
not a
gets boring.
political candidate. I'm not debating you.
You are a
okay? You're
political
asking me
candidate.
questions, and you're not allowing me to answer.
All right, you are a political candidate. Speaking of socialism, isn't government taking over private companies a form of socialism?
Continue with the leading question. Rapid, bring
Yeah,
it
so
home.
when President Trump takes stakes in companies like Intel, isn't that a form of socialism?
President Trump is not personally taking stake
The
in
U.S.
any
government
company. I
is.
don't know what kind of
The
fake
U.S.
news you're
government
peddling
is.
here.
The U.S. government has a stake in Intel and other companies. Isn't that a
Is
form
it
of
a national
socialism?
security threat that we don't have
Well,
chips to
that-
manufacture or something of that nature? Because we cannot let ourselves out high and dry, as China has complete access to all of the chips for AI boom and the fifth generation warfare boom. So if you're talking about a national security threat to make sure that our country has the manufacturing capabilities to outlast a war with anybody on this earth, then I completely support that. But if you're talking about some type of way to enrich themselves, then no, that's not what they're doing.
You have no problem with President Trump getting the American people a return on their investment, right?
Continue with your leading questions.
Not my leading question, buddy. I did 4 years in the same gulag that you did because I stood up for patriots like Roger Stone and others. They came to me and wanted stuff on Trump. Look at my history first before you call me anything else, okay? But number one, President
I don't
Trump,
know who you are. I wouldn't know you if I walked by you in the street.
Next time, listen, Jake, and that's fine. I'm here because I like what you've had to say, and I thought it would be good for our audience. So what Mike was talking about was the U.S. government has stake in certain companies, and really it's President Trump getting return on the investment for the American people. There were taxpayer money given by by Barack Hussein Obama and Joe Biden, and we got nothing back for it. But President Trump turned it around by giving the American people a stake in these companies and getting a return on the investment. Do you have a problem with that?
Well, you're framing this question right now. No, I don't. But the reason why we're taking our return on our investment the way you're putting it is because these are national security matters that we need to maintain our supremacy in chip manufacturing and in all different types of AI fifth generation warfare. So if our country needs to maintain its sovereignty and protect our interests by working with some of these companies and ensuring that the production and the manufacturing and all these different variable factors are being followed through on, then I have no problem with that. I mean, we are not
So to follow up on
if you're
that,
trying to somehow I think your co-host, I can't see you guys because my camera's facing the other way, but I think your co-host is in some way trying to build a bridge between communism and President Trump, when President Trump's the only reason on God's green earth we're not living in a communist socialist regime right now. So, these
And
side
to that
points
point, Jake,
are so pathetic. It's really a pathetic kind of way to try to get a headline or something like, oh, U.S. Senate candidate agrees that Trump's a socialist. Like, come on, you're better than that. Everybody knows that's
I
not
think
Trump's agenda.
to that point, Jake, I'm going to ask you. Okay, I'm going to get to the Mamdani lawsuit next, but I'm going to ask you. You have a Florida first agenda and America first agenda. If elected, what are the first three America first policies you'll push for on energy, border security, and free speech? You talked a little bit about it already on energy. You had a border security proposal about having individuals go and help
Send them back.
security.
We will continue to cooperate with ICE and increase the level of cooperation in the budget here in Florida to send back all the illegals. America for Americans.
Okay, great. So let's get to the meat of this. So you just sued the Zohran Mamdani in New York for $100 million. Tell us a little bit about this lawsuit.
This lawsuit is based on Zohran Mamdani hates white people. He wants Italians and the Irish, the Polish, the Jewish. He wants to tax us into oblivion to pay for his Muslim jihadis free healthcare, free schooling, free buses, free bread lines. He wants to tax white New Yorkers to pay for the Muslim jihadis free everything. And that does not sit right with me. I grew up in New York. I went to college in New York City. I own property in New York. My family's based out of New York. And I am personally affected by this in ways. I have an entire business platform based in New York, still social media company running over there. And this is going to destroy New York City, and it is racist against the Civil Rights Act. It is against the 14th Amendment, equal protection for all Americans, regardless of age or race or sex, whatever. We are not allowed to tax based off of these federally protected classes or anything. You can't say this person's allowed to come to this restaurant and this person isn't because they're over a certain age or because they're man or female. That's not the way things happen in America. And it is racist. It is antithetical to the way of the American way of life. And we are pushing back on it with a federal discrimination lawsuit that is seeking punitive damages to make sure that politicians in these big blue cities and states know that the American white people will not become second-class citizens in our own country. We will not go to the back of the bus. We will not be discriminated against. We need to fight back in the court and fight back now before we all end up like Dearborn, Michigan.
Mamdani's announced that he wants to tax white people. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Do you live under a rock?
Well, I'm telling you.
Is the front page cover of New York Post.
Publicly and said a lot of things. You're specifically, what specific things did he say that are?
It is on his campaign website that he wants to tax richer, whiter neighborhoods more to pay for his campaign. He was on MSNBC. The host asked him, why you're bringing race into this? And he doubled down and said, that's just a description that we're using right now. But he has literally said on his campaign website right now, if you go to my X page, my viral video, a few videos posted down, over 1 million views on it. Literally the video clip of the newscaster reading it out. The front page of the New York Post said the price is white. Mamdani's almost his most famous flub, which is not a flub, it's actually his agenda written on his website, is that he wants to tax richer, whiter neighborhoods more. And that is an exact quote.
All right, so here's what I think where problem lies with your lawsuit. Mamdani's not even mayor yet. He's mayor-elect. Just proposing an idea.
Mamdani is a state assembly member. He is an elected official.
Jake, with all due respect, I haven't actually asked you the question yet. You said don't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you. So he can come up with any idea he wants. You can't sue him for an idea you don't like. This isn't actually a policy. There is no law that taxes one neighborhood more than another. This is something that he ran on. People run on stuff all the time. So you are suing him for something that he hasn't done yet. Isn't that a flaw in the lawsuit?
Listen, 2 points to this. First of all, he isn't a current elected official, and it's illegal to what he's doing. Right? You cannot start to push type of financial genocide on white people
Whoa, whoa,
and
whoa,
try
whoa,
to
whoa,
make
whoa,
that
whoa,
the
whoa, whoa, whoa,
popularized
whoa.
opinion in New
We
York.
have a First Amendment. You can push whatever you want. You can propose anything. You
You
can
can
speak freely. You can
as
propose
elected
any
officials. Yes,
policy
he
you
can.
want. That's
I'm
what
not
elections
calling.
are for.
Okay, I'm not calling for a criminal indictment on the man for using his First Amendment, but I'm calling, and I have, in fact, put my money where my mouth is and filed a lawsuit on him because it is discriminatory and he does have plans to do it, whether a law is enacted or not, by changing different social programs that are offered, by changing. There is ways. Everybody knows this in politics. There are many ways to skin a cat, and he can start to change policies in effect that actually end up costing whiter neighborhoods more without ever getting a bill passed or a law passed to that effect. And if his agenda is to tax white New Yorkers more, white New Yorkers more, then don't you believe that in every way, shape, and form, the way he's going to shape his policy, the way he's shaping his transition team, the people he's hiring, all are to meet the needs and the meet the end of that effect. And so we're calling attention to it with this lawsuit. And quite honestly, the left is the master of lawfare. It's time that the conservative right start to step into the ring and start to punch back, just like they did to President Trump. They did this to President Trump in every state, all over the place, preemptive lawsuits and all kinds of stuff. So why can't we do it? We are fighting hard now before the socialists ruin New York City. This is a stand against radical Islamic jizya tax, which is the tax whites and Christians have to pay in Islam to be able to be alive there. Make no mistake, this is Sharia law jizya tax, and he's bringing it to New York City. And I will not sit idly by and wait for him to enact such a thing or wait for him to social in certain neighborhoods and increasing garbage pickup rates. There are many different ways you can skin that cat and changing the way that people are paying for things in different neighborhoods to move that money from the white New Yorkers over to the illegal immigrants and over to the Muslim jihadis. So I'm not waiting. I'm not going to sit idly by. I'm going to fight now.
Muslims have to take an oath of supreme submission to Islam. Do you think that Muslim oath is incompatible with holding office in the United States?
Ban Islam. Ban Islam in America. Not just, first of all, ban any Muslim from being able to run for office. That's just an easy one. Ban Islam. It is a terrorist organization. Every single outpost, every single mosque is a military outpost. It is a effectual takeover of our country. And if you don't believe me, look at London, okay? Do you want to end up like London? Then ban Islam. It's very simple.
Do you believe in the Constitution?
I believe in the Constitution, but what I also believe in, right, is the understanding that the American way of life that our founding fathers had envisioned, they had guaranteed us for our posterity. Do you know what posterity means? That is our heritage. That is our makeup. That is our bloodline. That is our people. They guaranteed for posterity's sake the things that they promised in our Constitution, not for radical Muslim jihadis from the Middle East to be funneled over here to abuse the immigration policies and to take over every single strain of office and business all around us. I'm sorry, that just does not work for me. It doesn't work for any American. None of your audience, nobody reading this wants to turn into Londistan here, okay? And so whatever we need to do to make sure that does not happen, if we need to ban Islam and designate it as a terrorist organization, then that's what we need to do. Because our country will not fall to radical Islamic terrorists that are coming into this country and outbreeding us wholesale, buying up property, buying up the businesses, taking over political power, and shifting the policies to discriminate against white people. It isn't happening. They have 56 countries, Muslim majority countries, where a Christian cannot even go out and pray there in public without being beheaded. Why do we need to hand over Germany, England, Ireland, Australia, America? Why do we need to hand over the only majority white countries in the world and funnel in these Islamic terrorists that are outbreeding us and destroying our country. I just don't see it as productive to the American Western way of life that we've built. It is antithetical to it, and we need to stop it now.
Do you see that? That's the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free
Do you want
exercise.
your grandchildren to be under Sharia law? Do you want your grandchildren, your granddaughter, to be wearing a burqa, being beat by her husband, worshiping a pedophile warlord? I'm asking you a question.
Would you be confused about what the First Amendment says? If you're following the First Amendment, then Sharia law would never be the law of the land, because we would not make no law respecting the establishment of religion. But
listen, do you not understand that the Constitution is a living, breathing document? And when these people get power, they can change the Constitution. That is not the supreme. Do you understand that the Constitution, any amendment can be ratified, can be changed and re-ratified? And if they get the numbers, they can enact Sharia law because they don't have the numbers to. It blows my mind. You think this is an unbreakable thing as a living, breathing document? And you don't like the First Amendment. You don't like the First Amendment. I love the First Amendment, and the First Amendment was guaranteed to protect
here it is again. Tell me which part. Tell me which part.
And our country.
Which part of this paragraph do you not like? Which part of this paragraph do you want to change?
Would you be happy if your granddaughter came home in a burqa from school?
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment
worshiping and bowing their head to a pedophile that raped a 9-year-old girl. That doesn't sound like religion to me. That sounds like a death cult. Okay, it sounds like a terrorist organization that says kill the non-believers where they stand. Cut their head, cut their throats of those who do not convert. Does that sound like a First Amendment protected religion, or does that sound like a death cult, a terrorist organization? That's what I have to say.
So again, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. Do you have a problem with that?
Okay, so what if my religion was the same thing, but on the other side to do to Jews or something? I mean, come on. You can't just hide behind religion when you have a terrorist organization, a death cult that is in every crossroads working to destroy America. That is not a religion. That is a false ideology that is dangerous and terroristic. I'm sorry. It's not a religion. The way that they're acting,
like Islamophobe.
I am an Islamophobe, proud, a xenophobe, all of it. Get them out of my country. We don't want them here.
So Jake, you said often that your faith sustained you during solitary confinement and J6's Gulag. How does your faith guide you in your fight against corruption today?
Listen, Jesus Christ would be here to drive them out of the temples, just as we were on January 6th. These people, these corrupt politicians, they're bowing the knee. They are bowing the knee not to God, but to the financial institutions that run our country, the NGOs, and all of the deep state assets. They are compromised individuals. They are bowing the knee to Islam. They're passing, even in Texas, the Texas governor is giving tens of millions of dollars to these mosques and helping them with their jihadi Sharia law takeover of America, and in many other ways. My faith gives me the integrity. The Holy Spirit speaks through me and any Christian that stands against these corrupt politicians and these working with these NGOs and these false religious organizations to destroy America from the inside out. We have an organization named CAIR, C-A-I-R, right? The Council on American Islamic Relations. Okay? It's a terrorist organization. They're tied to all different types of terrorist acts. They backed Mamdani, and those people are paying off all different types of Republican governors and senators and everybody. And so my faith tells me to stand and to crush evil wherever it is, and that is evil that must be driven out of our country.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Christian crusader. I am not a Christian pacifist. Get them out.
So Jake, your opponent is Ashley Moody. Ashley Moody's serving in Senate now. She's filling out the term of Marco Rubio. She was formerly the Attorney General of the state of Florida. She has a very good resume, and she's well liked both within Florida and Republican circles, as well as Washington Republican circles.
That's the biggest red flag to me.
What do you bring to the table that is different or better than what Ashley Moody can?
I am not well liked by the establishment. I am not an establishment hack. I am not a Ron DeSantis loyalist who turned his back on President Trump. Ashley Moody was very upset about the January 6th pardon. She's a fake patriot. She is a go along to get along senator. She will never stir up any type of controversy, any type of patriotic moving forward MAGA action. She is a DeSantis in a dress, flabby, nothing burger senator, and Florida deserves hardcore 1776 forward thinking masculine leadership in the most MAGA state in the country. We don't need Ashley Moody to sit on her fingers, sit on her heels, and do nothing and just be another one of the Republican senators that just votes along with the party lines. We need somebody who will stand up and codify President Trump's agenda and be voracious in their service. And Ashley Moody just isn't that. She's just another establishment, monopoly train, pass go, collect $200, just going around the board of Washington, D.C. politics. We need somebody who's ready to drain the swamp, not become it.
Do you think that the governor DeSantis has done a good job in Florida? I just woke up today to Kristi Noem announcing 150 pedophiles in Florida were taken out with substantial help. Illegal immigrant pedophiles were taken out, substantial help by Governor DeSantis and the Florida authorities. Do you think he's done a good job?
I'm not here to criticize Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis is done what he's had, especially during COVID. Excuse me. I like Governor DeSantis' strong stance on COVID. I like his strong stance on parental rights in Florida. I like the way he pushes back. But Governor DeSantis is also somebody who came against January 6ers. He wasn't willing, his platform was not to pardon us. So Governor DeSantis has some compromise in him. What I love about President Trump is that he's willing to do things that no other man is willing to do. He's ready to go over the line, to get a little bit into the aggressive stance, to change it to the Department of War and to the Department of Defense. Governor DeSantis, unfortunately, he is a great governor, but he's not poised for that level of leadership as United States president to save a country that is falling to communist regimes, to absolute tyranny. He has great muster, Governor DeSantis, and I respect him for many ways, but he is not a once-in-a-generational leader like President Trump, and he would not have changed this country around and turned this country around so dramatically as President Trump did. Governor DeSantis is a few steps above a rhino to me, but he's not a 1776 MAGA patriot like President Trump. He's somewhere in the middle. He's not a lukewarm Republican, and I respect him, because he's better than most of what we see across the country, but he doesn't muster up. And it's very similar with Ashley DeSantis. That's a good one. Ashley Moody. It's not like she's the worst senator that we have or the most rhino, feckless one there, but she just doesn't have that special secret ingredient, which is extreme integrity and firebrand willingness and passion in her heart for this country to save this country. DeSantis and Ashley Moody are very similar in the fact that they're like safe bets, right? They're kind of like a little bit better than Jeb Bush and Paul Ryan's, but they're not Ronald Reagan, President Trump, freedom fighting, voracious patriots. They're just okay. And Florida deserves better than just okay.
If you're the U.S. Senator from Florida, you're going to have to work with all the elected officials. The next governor appears to be, after President Trump's endorsement, is going to be Byron Donald. What do you think of Byron Donald? Do you think you could work with him? What do you think of his policies?
I do believe I can work with Byron Donald. He does, to me, represent a little bit more of that and a lot more of that voracious integrity and the willingness to shake things up and to fight. He's a new generational leader looking to actually make change and not just kind of pitter patter along. I like Byron Donalds a lot. He's a good man.
Okay. Mike, you have anything?
Yeah. Do you want women to vote?
That's a good one. I think that, can we just say, of course, women deserve the right to vote. That's, as a Christian and as a man, we have to say these things, but we also have to look at the fact that if only women voted in 2020 or in 2024, it'd have been a sweep. Every state, only one state really would have been Florida, actually, would have been one. And so we have to ask ourselves a question as men and as patriots who love our country. Do we allow women to take us off a cliff into socialist communism? Is that a good thing? Is that something that, can we say that we allow women to vote Sharia law and to radicalize and bring in all the Muslims and all these illegal immigrants in and change the makeup and the future of our country? If that's the way they're voting, and the poll or the statistics are going this way, women are being hyper liberalized and men are downtrending towards conservatism compared to the last 20 years. So if women keep on getting more hyper radicalized to being liberal communists, and they are willing to take our country off the deep end into abject tyranny, do we stand by and just say because somebody's a woman or somebody, if men were doing it and I was a woman and it was the other way around, do we allow somebody to take our constitutional rights, our Second Amendment away from us, to sell us down the river to China, to sell us down the river to all these migrants, to change the physical makeup, the demographics, the way of life of America, just because you're a woman? If men were voting in egregious numbers, all Marxists, I would say take away men's right to vote if I was a woman on the other side. It's about the future of our country. And it's not about being sexist. It's just looking at statistical data. Am I racist because I say you're 31 times more likely to be assaulted by a black man than a white man because I'm pointing out a statistical fact? It's a statistical fact that women are destroying our country through their voting patterns and bringing in illegal immigrants, violent radical Muslims. Women voted in Mamdani. Yeah, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror in our country and say, because we believe in this noble pedestal that everybody has equal say in our country, does that mean we take this noble pedestal that we have, which is a righteous thing, and it is a true thing? All men were created equal. But do we ride a righteous pedestal like that, literally off a cliff, and turn our country into a minority of white people? We're going to be 10% white people in 50 years here in this country. Socialist, communist, completely what the founding fathers who drafted that document had no intention of us ever losing our posterity, losing our heritage, losing our way of life, and becoming a communist regime. And so we have to think of the framework, of the frame of mind of our founding fathers. What did they envision for our country? And try to maintain that as best we can, a Christian country full of white people that love America and love God. That is what our founding fathers envisioned. I'm not saying America can't have any other colors in it, but we cannot become a minority in our own country. White people are disappearing all across the world. In 1900, we were 30% of the world. In 1900, 125 years later, we are 7% of the world. It is effectively white erasure, white genocide happening. We are disappearing in the world. And that is mostly, and if we're going to allow it to happen, is mostly because of the changes in voting policies and voting dynamics as well. So, all of these different topics that I've just covered in a short period of time, they have congruencies in them. And the causation of them, we have to look at the changes we've made in our society to get us to this place and start to take real hard looks and say, what can we do to better educate women so that they do not become radicalized in college and they're starting to run off and get abortions? White women are lining up at abortion clinics, and Spanish women, black women, and Muslim women are lining up at maternity clinics. They're out breeding everybody in every country they're at, and they're turning Europe brown and Muslim. They're turning America brown and Muslim.
You think minorities shouldn't have as many kids?
I think that we need to take a look at, do white people have the right to exist? Do white people have the right to self-determination in our country?
White people from existing?
They're outbreeding us, taking the reins of power, and then enacting taxes on us to make us pay more.
No one's stopping you from breeding. No one's stopping you from breeding.
Do you know a guy named Thomas? That's actually not true. The way that the media complex is brainwashing young white girls. I mean, every single headline, they're saying maternity's bad. They told our children, our white girls in America and in Europe, that because of global warming, this is not the right time to have children. And you look at the headlines, you guys are very, very far behind. The Nick Fuentes crowd, the younger crowd of white men my age in America are understanding that there has been a psychological operation on our people, on our
So Nick
generation, and the
Fuentes is the guy
generations
you should be
before us
looking up
to
to.
dissuade us from reproducing. Why are we reproducing for every 2 white people, there's only 1.4 white people being birthed right now in Europe and in America. But the Muslims, on average, are at 2.7. So for every single white couple, 2 white people, we're having only 1.2, 1.4 sometimes in some countries, below the birth replacement rate. But in Europe, this is just in Europe, first of all, and I'm talking about the Muslims, our outbreeding is for every 2 of them, they're having 2.7. What is the psychological operation that poisoned the minds of young women? It's liberalism, it's feminism, this age of sexual revolution where they don't want to be mothers. They're in the workplace, they're career chasing. But the Muslims and a lot of these other people, they're more focused on family building, traditional roles of men and women, and the wife role, the homemaker role. We have to take a look at who's been pushing this on our children and why are white people disappearing across the globe? What psychological operation has told white women that they don't need to be mothers and homemakers, that they need to go out and chase riches and glory and worldly acquisition and ambitious things because it's destroying our countries? They don't vote like we vote. In fact, they don't vote like we vote. Nobody votes like white men vote.
Jake,
it's only white men that would have our country.
All right, Jake, you're repeating yourself. You said tyranny and then suggested that women shouldn't vote because they don't
because
agree
they're voting
with you.
in tyranny.
Who's the
Don't
tyrant?
you
Who's the
understand
tyrant?
that?
Who's the
Women
tyrant?
are voting in tyranny.
Oh, they're voting in tyranny, so we need to stop them.
If it was up to women right now, they would vote.
Tyranny is your definition, right? Tyranny is only your definition. You said other people are tyrants and then suggested that women shouldn't vote because you don't like the way they vote. Who's the tyrant?
It's not that I don't like the way they vote on small matter issues, but we're talking about
the big issues. They better vote like me or I'm going to stop them.
No, it's not about vote like me. It's about fundamental societal issues that are rooted in our relationship with God, our Second Amendment, our right to self-determination.
Like or they won't vote. Well, who's the tyrant? Who's the tyrant, Jake?
That is not about being tyrannical. That is about creating a future for my children.
You're a tyrant, Jake.
No, it is about creating a future for my children. If we allowed, let's say, for example, and you could go, this is for the audience right now. Don't take my word for it. Let's do a test. Go to Grok or go to ChatGPT and ask a very simple question. If only Spanish women voted in 2024 or in 2020, either one you have, what would the election results be? Spanish women, right? For example, it would be a 50-state sweep for the Democrat Party. It would have been Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, all 50 states.
And that's bad. We can't have that.
It's not about that. It's about the policies that they're voting for. They would have continued to have the open border. They're replacing, they're trying. Spanish women will be voting for the Democrat Party because they want to replace the Americans here. They would have an open border and flood another 20 million illegal immigrants.
So we need to stop that, right? So you're going to be a tyrant.
We need to stop them. Yes, we need to stop them because that is not.
All right, I got one last question, and then Rich.
And then ask yourself, wait, but I didn't finish with AI. I didn't finish.
Go ahead.
Spanish women voted in 2020 or 2024, any election, modern day election, 50-state sweep for Democrats. And ask AI this: if only white men voted in the previous election or election before that, what would the Electoral College votes be? 50-state sweep for President Trump. And it's not about the candidates. It's not about the party.
You want it the way you voted, but you're not a tyrant.
It's not about the candidates. It's not about the party. It's about the consequences of those votes.
It's the consequences. You've decided that the consequences are bad if they're different than what you want them to be.
Let me finish. It's the consequences. These are the 2 consequences. President Trump or Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris represents white erasure, transgenderism, homosexuality, degradation of moral values, and communism. President Trump, a future for white people in America, home ownership, Christian family values. So that's why I'm talking about the way I'm talking. Now, those are the consequences. I wouldn't care about any voting class voting if they weren't trying to demonically oppress, like Kamala Harris, transgender, homosexuality in every class, no family values, socialism, government reliance, all of these things, they're antithetical to the Constitution, to the Bible, and to the American way of life that our founding fathers carved out and our military died and fought for. And so that's the reasons why I'm questioning. I'm not submitting that we take away anybody's right to vote here. I'm questioning, asking for a philosophical conversation, saying, should we allow different classes and groups to drive us into absolute tyranny and absolute degradation of American way of life? Or if we take a look at the way that other certain demographics vote, hence white men who are voting for family values, Christian leadership, a future for white Americans, a future for white people in the world where we're not being swarmed and taken over by every other race in our own country here. We will be taken over very shortly because of the policies that women have voted for. And it's just a verifiable fact. The white people will be a minority in every country that they were once a majority in 50 years because women are voting for the destruction of their own race, their own culture, their own background, their own heritage. And that is just a verifiable fact. These people, they don't vote like us. Spanish people don't vote like us. Black people don't vote like us.
Right.
Jewish people don't vote like us.
Yeah, they don't.
All
Jewish
vote
people don't vote like
overwhelmingly
us.
Democrat.
You sound like a white supremacist. Last question.
I am somebody that is
last
asking
question. Hold on.
the audience to question
Jake,
their
stop
own
talking.
values.
Jake, stop talking. You come
Don't
off
tell me to stop
as
talking.
a guy who.
Don't tell me to stop talking. Don't be rude to me.
Yeah, it's my show. You come off as a
And
guy.
how much you want to bet you're going to selectively edit the show? You're going to put the show out?
I don't need to edit anything.
Are you going to put out the show from beginning to end, the
I
entire
will,
show?
and you'll come off exactly as you were, and it's not.
God bless America.
You'll sound great. You'll sound great to your crew.
For respecting.
You come off as a guy with a big temper tantrum that couldn't handle losing, and as a result, you storm the Capitol and you couch it like it's some sort of religious duty. What do you say to that?
It is our religious duty to maintain our country's sovereignty from evil. Good has no part with darkness. Light always shines through. And guess what? I'm free. I'm out of prison. President Trump's your president. The Republicans have every seat of power in our country, a majority seat of power in our country. So your ideology obviously has been rejected wholesale by the American people. We want our country back. We want our families back.
Who did I vote for?
We want
Who
America
did I vote
back.
for, Rich?
Yeah, he did vote for Trump. He did
I
vote.
voted for Trump.
But he lives in Illinois, Jake, so he voted for J.D. Pritzker too. So he gets a demerit on that one.
Right. I voted for Trump.
Want our country
voted
back.
for
We
Trump
don't
3
just want
times.
it back. We are
I voted
taking
for
our
him 3
country
times.
back. We
Okay,
are
so
taking our country
Jake,
back.
I have two final questions. I'm going to ask you one, and then I'm going to allow you to ask yourself a question and then answer it for the viewers. The question I have to ask is about tyranny. You talked a lot about tyranny and a lot about a big thing called media. Okay, the mainstream media, social media companies. And I think even Michael will agree that there's a problem with the social media tyranny. If you're elected, you become an elected official, a U.S. senator, what is your first policy action to stem the problems of social media?
Well, I believe our First Amendment already has that covered as far as but it's very hard to modernize what they're talking about, because if we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of reach. Reach is about social media algorithms. And so one of my first senatorial actions would to be propose a bill, a law, to make algorithm manipulation illegal. The people that have my viewpoints on social media have for years, since the inception of it, been held at the back of the bus. It's kind of like, we maybe even call it the Rosa Parks social media bill, because it is a discriminatory back of the bus standard for conservatives, Republicans, Christians. And you can have 100,000 followers and post something. And dependent upon the overlords of the algorithm, whether you're on Facebook or this one or that one, determine if it's seen by one person or by 0 people. So I think that algorithm manipulation, both in the search engine results of Google and Apple News and everything, they're pushing an agenda. When you typed in President Trump in 2016, Just type in Donald Trump, right? On Google, anywhere, Safari search engine, Apple search engine, every search engine. It would just give you a litany of hit piece articles. If you type in certain topics on YouTube, the search engine on YouTube, litany of negative
But you're not
media
required to
coverage.
use YouTube, and DuckDuckGo wouldn't have that. You can go to BitChute or
It's
Rumble. Why?
these have become the public forums, right? They've transcended really in many
Well, but
ways.
they must have been doing something right if they've become the public forum.
No,
So if they're so biased,
they have shifted their actions. They've shifted. They have usurped. They've come in under a false pretense and shifted. For example, YouTube. You used to be able to type in a lot of different conspiracy theories on YouTube, right? What we call conspiracy theories, right? And it would take you to independent journalists and independent small YouTube channels that gave you a well-rounded approach or the content and information you're looking for. Type in, let's say, for example, Great Replacement, right? The Great Replacement, which we're talking about today on YouTube right now. You're going to get all ABC, Fox, all mainstream outlets answering that. When you typed in the Great Replacement 10, 15 years ago on YouTube, you would get people that have the same viewpoints that I do many times, or researchers, analysts, independent journalists, talking about either both sides of the issue or maybe a one-sided part of the issue like I have, because I believe that I'm on the right side of that issue. So I have made my opinion on that. But you cannot get any information on the world's largest. You cannot get any information that I'm talking about.
Type it in.
Let me finish this. On the world's
but I'm not
largest
seeing what you're
video.
saying.
Let me finish.
Well,
You cannot get any information on this topic.
Only ABC and CBS.
I'm just trying to finish.
For Jake's benefit, Michael
it's ridiculous. I have one sentence.
You
cannot
said something, and I'm showing you that's
Jake,
not true.
Mike's on YouTube right now. He just typed in Great Replacement Theory. Read out the names, Michael, of who were there.
You got Tucker Carlson. You got Matt Walsh. What else? What is it that
you got The Hill, CBS News, Vice News, ABC, Washington Post, Democracy at Work, Pinball Preparedness.
I'm going on.
You said to type this in. I did, and it doesn't say what you said it says.
No, he's got a point in that there's a big corporate.
Well, first of all, and let me reframe that as well. But I'm typing it in right now. First of all, we're under a different world right now with President Trump. We are. Facebook's opened up, Instagram opened up. Everybody knows the stuff that you can post anywhere now is much different. YouTube has on people. Let me talk. Let me finish, because it's very important. We're underneath a very different world. On YouTube, you can talk about COVID now. On YouTube, you can talk about January 6th. And this is a change that we've seen. We saw these social media companies come to President Trump and pay money to help the inaugural ceremonies and stuff. So we have a much different world. Freedom of speech is in many ways back. But what I'm telling you is that we need to codify it so that if there is a Democrat in office 4 years from now, there's not a dramatic shift back to absolute tyranny on the social media side. And everybody knows that. All these social media companies have drastically shifted. I'm not saying it's perfect. This is nowhere near the freedom of speech that we really deserve. But I typed it in right now. The Great Replacement. I got Mr. B.
On YouTube, though. You don't have freedom of speech.
But the first answer, Mr. B explains the Great Replacement, propaganda, manipulation, believing white nationalists. Then Reuters, then MSNBC, then The Hill, then ABC News. Okay, then Vice News. Okay, so the first, and we have one Matt Walsh. So the first 7 answers are all liberal propaganda telling you the Great Replacement's not happening right now on YouTube. That needs to change, because I guarantee you, the actual people that are actually looking for this information. Look at this. MSNBC, Great Replacement, 10K views on that one. Then you go down to Tucker Carlson talking about it, hundreds of thousands of views. So they're pushing videos that nobody wants to see. Nobody's looking for those videos. And they're pushing them down our throats. It's making politics simple. 313 views on that video, and it's an American Jewish community, Great Replacement, 6,000 views. Nobody's looking for that. There are documentaries on the Great Replacement done by people that are not even as big as Matt Walsh, right? We have people, independent journalists, small video documentarians that have actual huge multi-million view documentaries on this thing. And guess what? Here's the best one of all. The Great Replacement, right? There's a Wikipedia note at the very top framing, telling you from an authoritative thing, saying it's a false conspiracy theory, debunked white nationalist far-right conspiracy theory. Then tell me why
you don't
the
think
graduating
that-
class of Minneapolis, I just saw a video of it, graduating kindergartner class didn't have a single white person in it in a public school. We are being replaced, and that is it.
Right. So
that Wikipedia note,
you
I
believe
would make
in
that
it.
illegal.
It actually sounds like you believe in it, and you don't want anything that runs counter to what you believe.
It's not about that. It's about freedom, being able to reach the right audience. The fact that they have a
Do you
Wikipedia
think that
note, like a
only people
community
who
note,
want to believe in it would want to find about the Great
it's a
Replacement theory?
verifiable fact.
It's
Whites are being
verifiable
replaced
fact
in
that it's
Europe
real.
and in America. We are being replaced. And
Right.
if we're
Verifiable
going to debunk, say it's a debunked right-wing far extremist viewpoint, then why do the statistical data show that?
What does it
For
show?
example,
What is the statistical data? You
in
said the statistical data
1970,
shows it. What does it show? What does the statistical data show?
in 1970, okay, Minnesota was 90, I think 95 to 98% white state, right?
Mhm.
Go look at the graduating class in Minneapolis, which we have a Muslim takeover there, of all their classes. Go look at it. There's not a white kid in the building. They're not even there. They've been replaced completely just in a matter of 50 years, okay?
You
Go
wanna
look at some of
guess how much
Australia's
of
class.
Minnesota
Go
is
look at
white?
videos of classes in Australia, in
Jake,
Sweden.
you're just
Everyone's
making crap
wearing the
up.
jab. They're
I'm sorry, Jake.
all brown. This is not a conspiracy theory.
78% of Minnesota is white. I think most.
Okay, so you're telling me in 50 years,
You
you're
make
telling me in
things up.
50 years,
In 50 years, it's
20%
gone
of a
from 99 to
demographic
78.
shift?
And that's bad. You don't
And
want
this
any
is
other.
Minnesota.
You don't
This
want
is
anyone
not New
else. You
York.
want
New
blacks,
York
you want
City.
Muslims, you don't want Hispanics, you don't want
New
Asians.
York City
Only
is
white.
29%
God forbid it
white
went
now.
from 99 to 78. That's really bad for you.
That's bad for America. This is America
It's
for
bad if there's
Americans.
any less white. We should only have white people, right?
No, it's not about only having white people, but it is our country. We deserve self-determination. We don't deserve
It's
to be
our
outbred and
country.
replaced.
It's
Okay?
our
If
country. That
it
sounds like
is our country, it's a
that
verifiable
sounds like
fact. We
the
are
way
the
the people who
majority.
owned slaves. That was their view, right? It's their country. Blacks, it's not blacks.
Listen,
Country.
you're talking about slavery. That's abject tyranny. It's horribly disgusting. Trying to say in any way I support slavery is literally retarded. Don't bring those
You
talking
support
points
white
here.
supremacy, which is the bedrock.
I don't say white people are better than anybody else, but
Really,
we deserve
any
to have our
any
country
extra
not invaded
non-white
too.
is bad. But
Okay,
you're
Right.
so if
extra
you were
white
to get
supremacy.
off a plane, I just have a question. If you were to pay your hard-earned money from the views that you're going to get from my video here and buy a ticket to Jamaica, and you were to land in Jamaica, and there were to be all Koreans, as far as the eye could see, you couldn't find jerk chicken, you couldn't see any of the traditional dress, any of the traditional music, any of the people that founded the culture, the heritage, the religious values there, Rastafarian, any of that. And it was
Right.
all Koreans, and there was a sushi restaurant here and a pho restaurant there, and they're playing Korean
sushi
music, and they had
restaurants are
Korean
good.
architecture, Korean art,
Oh,
Korean
that
culture.
would be
Wouldn't you
horrible.
say, what the hell? I came to watch.
Right.
I came to be in Jamaica with Jamaicans. Okay?
I
So when
gotcha.
you land in London and you're
Right.
seeing Arabic signs and everybody
Oh
praying,
my God,
and every
that's
single
horrible.
food is goat curry and everything, and they've been
Right.
taken over by Pakistanis, Indians, and Muslims, don't you say the same thing if you were to land in Jamaica and see only Korean food, Korean architecture, Korean
I
culture?
would know ahead of time that it was all Koreans and wouldn't go there. But
Yeah, but that's the point.
I-
White countries are turning into that.
it went
If you
from
take
99,
what we call
according to you,
Jamaican
to
Koreans,
78. It's not. You're full of it.
first of all,
You're
we're
making
talking
up
about
numbers.
Minnesota, which is one of the whitest states in the country, is already
Right,
on
but
its
you
way.
said it was not white. You claim
I'm
that it was
telling you
taken
that the
over.
youth. Now let's ask Grok this. Let's ask Grok this. Now we want to talk about percentages. Okay, let's ask out of the last 100,000 babies born in Minneapolis, what percentage of them are white? Let's just ask that. Out of the last 100,000 babies born in Minneapolis in 2025, what percentage of them are white? One sentence answer only. So it makes it so it doesn't give you like a whole entire freaking thing so you can just answer quickly. Grok's going to tell us right now. This is AI. This is how you know we're being taken over, okay? This is how you know. This is what I encourage your audience to do this kind of stuff. It's researching, telling the data sources. This is how you know. It's not 78% now because the boomers are still alive and the previous generations are still alive. But move it forward 50 years and you're going to see a complete demographic shift in our country.
What does God tell you?
It's going to tell you it's doing it. I'm not even going to censor it.
I'm not. What does Grok tell you?
Pays electric bill.
Grok's taken a long time to figure out what the answer
Well,
is.
because Grok is doing its work. You can see it targeting country data. It's doing all its work. If you go in here, you can see all the work it's doing to find this data. But let's get to the answer. Preparing a CSV file. Oh, he's about to get us out. Let's see. We're showing great replacement in real time and waking up some people here. Yourself included. I hope you guys see that.
Because other races are.
And I'll have it on Grok fast. That's how it's really doing its research here. You can see on every single aspect here, it's doing its research, so it doesn't give you some nonsense. And then the best thing to do is when it gives you an answer, you say, Grok, don't give me the liberal BS answer. Give me the real fact, and it'll always drop the percentage.
Let's get the answer so we can end the interview.
Well, this is what the great replacement is, America, and you're going to see it here in a second. This is
Here we go.
66%. Okay, so we went from a 98%.
So two-thirds of the babies in
You're talking about in one generation. One generation, you go from 98% white to 66%.
All right. Rich,
are you kidding me? Do you think that that's right? If that were to happen, this is my last point. If that were to happen in Jamaica and Koreans were to change it from 98% of Jamaicans are being born to Jamaican parents, Jamaican culture, bloodline, heritage, and all of a sudden the next generation was 66% only Jamaican, and all of a sudden Koreans just took it over. Wouldn't you say that's ethnic cleansing? Wouldn't you say that's white erasure? It is ethnic cleansing.
All right.
White erasure and ethnic cleansing, verifiable.
How many kids do you have, Jim?
We should.
How many kids do you have?
We're trying right now. Me and my beautiful fiance.
So you have zero. Maybe you should be like Elon and contribute yourself and get some kids.
I'm trying, brother. Believe me, I'm trying. I just got out of prison. You know, my life was destroyed. My life was destroyed, and I'm trying right now.
You're suing Mamdani and running for Senate. I don't think your life was destroyed. All right. Ask yourself a question.
You don't think 4 years of being in prison under false pretense? I was never convicted. For your audience, I never was given a trial. I was never found guilty of a single crime.
No, you're not supposed to happen. You're supposed to have a trial, a speedy trial. Ask yourself a question and answer it. Go ahead.
Is Jesus Christ God and King of America? Yes, he is. And he deserves to be worshipped. Thank you, guys.
Link, thank you for being here. It was fun and entertaining.